Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live. It's been a long week, and now we're going to talk car business. And my buddy Shawn here is my special guest this evening.
Thank you, sir.
And we shared a video earlier, and you know what? We're going to take a step back in time. So we're going to go old school for a second with this video. Let's go to the videotape. See if you recognize the guy that's in the video.
Dear Midas, one morning I noticed my car was pulling, so I took it to a tire store for an alignment. And after 3 separate attempts, they couldn't get it right. I went to Midas for help. Your manager,
Hi, I'm Paul Meyer.
and his staff spent all the time necessary to identify and correct the alignment. Paul said,
We don't want you to leave until you're extremely happy.
which I am. Sincerely, Anthony Nista.
That video is so old, I used to have hair. So we got Shawn Armorer,
There you
our
go.
special guest this evening. He is a BDC expert. We're going to talk about a lot of things in the automotive space. But for those people that don't know Shawn, why don't you introduce yourself? Welcome to the show, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Paul. Sunday night, wouldn't want to be doing anything else, right? Just get ready for the week. So I'm very excited. Thank you very much. So I've been in the automotive space now for about 20 years. Started off at the bottom. I hate saying that, at the bottom, but started off basically washing cars and just worked on my craft through the service drive for the first 7 to 8 years in the automotive space. And then I did a little bit of everything in between, jockey, washer, what have you. A little bit of advisor, became service manager. And then I stumbled on this thing called BDC many moons ago. And I stumbled on this thing BDC, and I've just been doing it ever since. I loved it because I gravitated towards it because it was an amalgamation of a little bit of everything. And I love data. A lot of people think I'm a mad scientist. So I love data. So it encompasses everything. And I love coaching and I love culture. So I've been doing BDC for about, let's just call it 20 years now.
You love data. You need to connect with my buddy Paul Machine from Black Book. He is the data meister. Not connected?
I'm not competing with him, but I love data, right? I mean, strategic data. I think, listen, we have a lot to cover tonight, but I just think that one of the things that has been missing for years and years and years and years is just data. You know, we've always in the stores that I've been at, I've built BDCs for 5 of Canada's largest dealer groups. Biggest BDC being roughly around 17 to 20 people. So I've rebuilt them. I built them from the ground up, where day one, I was the only one making calls. I still make calls to this day. But with regards to data, I think one of the things that have brought me great success is that I've always built my strategy on current data and not secondhand data.
Right. Fresh.
Correct. Fresh. It's our own data. Because I think one of the main, if I could say it, it's my opinion, but one of the main problems that I've seen throughout my career in a lot of these stores is that we're always comparing ourselves to the dealer across the street and what they're doing. You know, we're always looking at our numbers, whether you want to talk service, whether you want to talk sales, it's always relates to the same thing. So I think that your focus should be on your own data. I mean, they don't have maybe the same setup. They don't have the same number of people, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of components that can make that they had a better month or they had a better week, or what have you. So just focus on your own data. You know, people should be more concerned with their trajectory than the results. Results are important, of course, but you should be more concerned with your trajectory than your results.
When you're running a race, it is important to keep focused forward, keep running. The minute you start looking behind you, that's when you start losing ground. So let's acknowledge a couple folks here. We have Michael Landis in the house. Says, hello, everyone. It's my buddy from West Hartford, Connecticut, Wendy Reeves. Good evening, beautiful people.
Hey, Wendy. She made it.
Steve Chesson from the West Coast says, hi.
Steve.
Daniel. It
Hello,
all
Steve.
starts with a phone call to any business. Teach it and preach it.
Yep.
And also from the West Coast, my buddy Michael Weldon. So welcome. All right, so turnover. I don't know about you, but I love apple turnovers. There's nothing better than a freshly warmed up apple turnover.
Yeah,
But
those got me in.
turnovers at the store,
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the issues there?
Turnover or churn, as they call it, and in my experience, is the single biggest operational cost. I think it's avoidable as well, as a matter of fact. What do I think about it? Again, not to be cynical, but I've been around and I've been doing this for a very long time, 5 different dealer groups. So what I do see is there is a consistency. Not to harp on HR, not to harp on anything like that. There's great people in the industry, 100%. However, I just think that we are absolutely missing the onboarding process. I do a lot of consulting, a lot of BDC consulting, and it all relates to around culture. Like my first questions before I take on any kind of a new customer, I go through a series of questions with regards to, well, what is your culture? What's your onboarding process? You know, so it's because if not, you'll go in there and you'll start doing consulting and whatnot, and then you just have to start all over again, right? So,
right. If you don't know what the actual issues are, it's hard to come up with a plan to change it.
Correct.
And the culture thing and the onboarding, that is key, because if people are just thrown into the pool and say, good luck, you know, here's some swimmies if you're having trouble, that doesn't work. And that definitely helps the churn.
Well, that's exactly what it is. So what I've seen, because I've actually wanted to be a part of it, and I pride myself amongst my career. Like I said, I'm a data freak, so I've actually turned a lot of what I've done in my career into data, tangible, by the way. We won't go through it, but I have all the numbers if ever there's doubters out there. So over the last 20 years, I pride myself on having roughly around a 12% churn over the course of 5 different dealer groups and over 70 to 80 BDC agents. Whereas in our industry, I'm here in Montreal, this is most recent, and this is real metrics that came from an HR department that confirmed that we were roughly around at the 48% mark. Like, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like 1 out of 2 won't make it through the year. I was reading an article actually in the Harvard Business Review, and it was actually super interesting. They said it costs roughly around $55,000 the coaching process, the first 3 to 4 months. And what I mean by 55 is not necessarily just the salary, but their time, products, whatever, pens, pencils, whatever. So that's an astronomical amount of money. So if you take 55 grand and you multiply that by 40%, I don't know. You know, I think we're looking down the wrong avenue. So I think it's super important to have an employee onboarding. I think it's super equally as important to have an employee career path. It's got to be carved out before they even get there.
Yeah.
Because true
you can't
leadership,
get to where you're going if you don't know where you've been and or have the path to get there.
Correct. And I think not to be cynical, but I think a lot of times what I've seen is we're just plugging holes, you know, kind of like the cartoons. The water's coming in and you're just plugging holes because people keep leaving. So think about your CSI, you know, and we're poor service advisors out there. What a bad rap that they get, because that entire CSI revolves around their advisor number. But there's so many other components before the person even gets to the dealership that could make or break that CSI, right? So it's about aligning everybody, aligning the dealership, and it's good leaders produce other leaders. That's my firm belief. And when we're talking about culture, and I know that word's been killed and it's been thrown around a lot, but when we're talking about culture, I would like to know on my first day, where instead of asking the question, hey, Mr. Paul, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why don't you as a company tell me where I can be in the next 5 years based on my accolades or my academic pedigree or my work history? But why don't you carve out a career path to keep me stimulated and wake up and coming to work in the morning?
That's a good conversation to have, because you can gauge whether or not the other person has that same vision in mind. in a conversation like that. The
Correct.
beauty of in-person conversations like that is you can gauge the body language, the pause, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when you lay that out for somebody, that tells them, hey, wow, I'm not just showing up here for a job. These people actually have plans for me, assuming that I fit their plan.
Correct. And then don't
work towards that.
100 exactly. It's a two-way street, because a lot of especially now with what we're seeing right now with all this turnover and the dealer socket debacle that just happened and what have you, there's an explosion of a talent pool has never been more amazing. But I just think there's a great responsibility with regards to the people joining a pre-existing culture to align themselves with that culture by asking the right questions. It's not just a job, because you're going to waste their time. You're going to waste my time. You're wasting everybody's time. Right. And then 6-7 months go by and you're like, oh, that dealer group is no good. No, it's not that they're no good. I honestly don't feel that any dealer group is not good. They just have their own culture. And there's some people that fit into that culture and there's other people that don't. So I think it's equally important to ask questions. I think that when we're doing interviews, a lot of people are too embarrassed to ask questions, which is why when I've done over hundreds of interviews, and when I invite them in just to make sure that they're calm, I just tell them like, listen, this is totally not an interview. And you know what? I hope people watching, I've interviewed them before and they could say, yeah, he's telling the truth. I always say, first of all, it's not an interview, it's a discussion. It's a discussion between two professionals. I have a position I need to fill, and you think you're the best candidate. So let's have the discussion. An interview style in the sense that there's two things happening. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, but I need you to ask me a bunch of questions. It's super important. What are your
expectations?
What are your expectations? Ask hey, Shawn, what's your coaching style? What's your leadership style? How do you do this? Or what are your expectations? 100%. It's super important. But that can only happen.
Daniel, hold on a second. Jeff Daniel says your next trained advisor should come from your BDC.
100%.
Or your new advisor needs to start/train in the BDC. Yeah, 100%.
You know what, Daniel? That is an absolutely amazing point because, and again, I hope some of my previous agents are here. BDC service. I've been building BDC service for years and years. Part of my onboard process, I'll just dump it all out. Do what you will. It's not the best, but it works, right? So part of my onboarding process, I have the first literally 2 weeks mapped out. It's mapped out. There's no guesswork. There's no, okay, hold on, like calling IT to set up their computer the day that they're coming in, right?
Oh,
what's their password? Oh, whoops, it's not working. So on day one, it's kind of just shadowing and looking and paperwork. Anyway, day 2, 3, 4, somewhere down towards the tail end of the week, once they start to get more comfortable, like Steven Chesson said, who shout out to Steven, he's a monster BDC. Shout out to Wendy as well. She's absolutely phenomenal. Part of my process is to walk around with them and show them, like, bring them into the shop, talk to the technicians, let the technicians tell you when they're overloaded. When you're the BDC person upstairs and you think you're just booking appointments, they BDC personnel need to understand, or the appointment personnel need to understand, they have the ability to completely wreak havoc for the lives of those people downstairs by overbooking, underbooking. So it's very important to align the BDC initiatives with the service manager. My best friend has always been fixed ops and service manager. You have to. It's 100%. It's not just like the BDC is this standalone hub of the organization and then service is service and we talk to each other at the end of the month. That's terrible.
It's open communication on a regular basis because everybody needs to know where everybody is at and be on the same page. You can't, if you don't know what's going on, how can you help the other person and vice versa?
We come back down to culture. It comes back down to culture. I have made it a point my entire career, trial and error, trials and tribulations, a lot of bumps and bruises. But like I was saying before the show, it's about attitude. Hire off of attitude. and if you take the word attitude and you attribute like A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, if you spell out attitude, it literally spells a 100. So attitude is 100%. It's always 100% higher off of attitude. And you can teach, you can teach the soft skill, hard skill, what have you. So for me, what has brought me great success as well is having an interest in what they do. There was never, like, especially when I was a jockey, there's that time of the day where you kind of just sit down because all the work orders, all the cars are in. So there's that gap between, let's call it 11 and 1, where there's nothing happening. And then it picks up around 1:30, 2 o'clock when you start calling the morning cars that are ready. Whenever there was a gap, I would literally spend my time with the techs. I would literally spend my time at the cash, closing work orders with the cashier. Because a lot of people were just kind of like, well, what, you want to be a cashier? First of all, who cares? Why not? But secondly, it's about information. The success of any position, I don't care who you are, technician, BDC, GM, sales manager, the success to me is information. So what I used to do when I was closing the work orders and doing the cash and what have you, and reconfirming the amounts with the customers to go and get that CSI, I was exposed to 80 to 100 work orders a day times 5 days, times a month, times a year. That's, to me, free education. I was literally studying the operation codes. That's where all my knowledge really came from. Like, yeah, I had great managers, great coaches, but I was also very curious and I'm very bold. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to show up. And that's just part of my work ethic. So a lot of the terms that I understand today, like how many BDC managers don't know what a whip is? It's work in progress. What does it mean? When do you pull it out? You pull it out once a week? No, you got to pull it out 2-3 times a day. You got to be on top of your stuff. So when it gives me the ability later on when I'm building these BDCs, that's why they're so successful. It's not just like, and when you were opening up, you called me an expert. I appreciate that. But I just don't see myself as an expert. I called my company Alchemy for a reason. Alchemy is very much about exploring the unknown. And Alchemy is basically creating something out of nothing. So it's about constantly working on my process, constantly reaching out to Wendy's and reaching out to Stevens. And I'm just constantly learning. I've never thought that I know everything, but I'm very curious. So what's EHG? EHG shop supply. What does it mean? What's a whip? It's about calling your service manager at 11:30 right before lunch to ask him, listen, are we good for the afternoon? Because think about it. In service, what I've been taught I was very fortunate enough to have awesome fix managers. Yes, it's about CSI. Yes, it's about fixing cars. That's the technician. But as a whole, we are in the business of selling time. We sell time.
100%.
Because yes, we're here to fix cars and whatnot, but if your shop is not full, forget it. On your dock, not good. Not good.
Well, speaking of Wendy says same as sales. BDC reps should shadow the service advisors and the service advisors should spend time in the BDC. I am a firm believer that everybody in a dealership should be cross-trained enough to have a working understanding of what everybody does, because everybody knows their own function fairly well, but they don't necessarily know how the pieces fit together. And in not knowing how the pieces fit together, they don't know where some of the snags happen and some of the bottlenecks. And those are the types of things that cause problems where customers get caught up in.
Yeah, I totally agree with Wendy, and I totally agree with you. And just look at what we just went through, the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many times they were just shutting down BDCs, and then there was this, and then there was that. But we could have totally hybrided the entire thing. I mean, think about it. For the first time in automotive history, it was confirmed and deemed that we were an essential service. How flattering. But what a responsibility we now have. I mean, think about it. We were in a global pandemic. I'm not going to talk about this after this because I'm done talking about it. But I was so proud because we were in a global pandemic, and what was open? Hospitals, supermarkets, gas stations, and service centers.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that when we're coming out of this, which we started to here, but when we're coming out of this on the other side, that the service department will finally get the respect that it deserves and that it needs. Just be a part, be a part of the organization, because there's a lot of cross training, like you said, that could go on, and it would so minimize the churn and the turnaround, like we were just talking about before.
Yeah. Jeff Daniels says, in a perfect world, the advisors use 10, 2, 4 for contacts. The BDC should follow up work in process at 10:30, 2:30, 4:30 after advisor updates. And Jared Kalfa says, cross-training allows for alignment of an operations goal while also empowering employees to service customers, resolve problems, and turn customers into raving fans. Bingo.
Yes,
1000%.
absolutely. Yeah, I follow Jeff Daniels. He's super solid. I follow his content, and he's 1000% right. You know what? Listen, if it's 10:30, if it's 10, if it's this, is it that, as long as you have a plan in place.
Yeah.
Right. But too many times what happens, or what I've seen, again, my opinion is it's not necessarily cohesive. They're communicating. But if I call my service manager an hour before I leave to ask him how his day was, this is useless.
Right.
Why am I not? The bays is over. Those bays need to stay full. Those shop hours need to be full. As a matter of fact, think about it. If the BDC is the hub of the organization, and we're using whatever CRM that we have in place, I'm more of a manual kind of guy because I'm old school. But if we're using these CRMs, well, when they're opening up the work order, that's the whole debacle. We could get into that later, because the CRMs are not necessarily tied into the DMS, and it's always just been that struggle. So I'm more of a DMS kind of guy, but I use CRMs. But we're able to see the no-shows. Why are no-shows not called 30 minutes after the time that just went by?
Crazy. You know how many times? Wait, check this out. So I'm with you all the way. If they're not there within 30 seconds, or within 30 minutes, something happened that you can still have the ability to alter. Oh, this happened or that happens. Yeah, can I come in now? Sure, or something like that. But so many times, there's one email that goes out at 6 o'clock at night. Where are you going with the one email that goes out at 6 o'clock at night for a no-show at 8:30 in the morning, when that one email, that one point of contact, goes into spam? And these people don't understand to check spam.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with regards to vendors and the tools that are out there, tools are great. There's a lot of things, but I think we really need to be careful with regards to, how can I call this, our closest profitability, and that's the day of.
Right.
I don't want to text. Listen, pick up the phone first. It's got to be a live contact. Then if you don't hit live, then you send them a text, then you do an email. But a text is immediate. Because what I coach, and I consult this a lot, is that they need to remember, when the service manager will call me, and this happened, like, it was always just a battle, right? But when the service manager would call me like around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, kind of like, we just reversed it, right? Like, he'd be like, my shop is full. How come? Dude, where were you at 10? Where were you at 11? Right? So my phone rings all day, especially during tire season when you're 2-3 weeks out. The minute you have a no-show, there's 100 calls that came in since this morning. I could have filled that up right away. So it's just about not just talking about communication, but actually doing it. Go see your service manager and let your service manager come and see you. But that can only be established if there's a working relationship.
Right.
And
a trust factor that's developed over time.
It's got to be a trust factor. Exactly. And trust, what a beautiful word you just used, Paul. Trust is not only, hey, I trust he's got my back, or numbers. Yeah, numbers are great. But trust, I need to put myself in his shoes. I was actually a service manager for a year and a half at a Lexus store. So I really understood it. I understood it before, but when I actually did it, it opened my eyes to, you know what? It may not even be that he doesn't want to communicate with me. He has no time.
Right.
There's like 4 or 5 advisors. There's customers complaining. There's a night drop. There's the phone ringing. There's this. There's your
customers.
Your customers, the manufacturer warranty person calling you because you're processing too many warranty work orders. I mean, it's coming in at all angles. So when I actually did that job for a year and a half, and then I found BDC and I started building BDCs all over Canada, that's where I was like, okay, listen, fixed ops, service manager, best friends. I go to them. They do not come to me. You know, when you sit down with them, trust, like you said, you can't have these 30, 40-minute conversations. They're data-driven. Speak their language. What does the whip look like? Boom, he knows exactly, or she knows exactly what you're talking about. You know, do you have any lost time? Do we have any gain time? What's, you know, how many cars do we need? Or what does it look like tomorrow? Et cetera, et cetera. It's just being a player. Stop observing and get in the game, right? Get in the game. Yeah.
Pay plans.
Yes.
Everybody's favorite. It seems that pay plans change, and they're not always for the better. There's John Fraser and I did a video the other night, and I put it on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if everybody saw it or not, but I think that'd be a good video to kick off here.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Because it, the way he approaches it, it's proactive, right? There's proactive and reactive. If you proactively look out for your people, they respect it and they will go to battle for you. If you reactively try to plug the holes that you were talking about earlier, they don't have the same respect because you're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. So check this out.
If an employee has to ask you to keep them, you're too late. If a technician has to come to you and say, I'm going to go over here to this dealership because they're offering me this money, what can you do for me? You waited too long. You're too late. And a couple of my guys get calls all the time. They tell me about it. They don't hide it. They tell me about it. He's like, you wouldn't believe this dealer that called me the other day and tried to offer me this, but I wouldn't go over there for $1 million because they're not going to get, you can pay a tech $100 an hour flat rate to work in your shop. But if you don't have the work coming through the shop, which a lot of dealers struggle with that right now, you don't have the environment, you don't have the support. You know, if a technician feels like he's going to shoot a multi-point up here to the service drive and it's just going to get pencil whipped and not presented to the customer, what does it matter to the tech what you're paying him per hour? It's not productive for him, both physically as a technician or mentally either. Some things are just not worth the brain damage. And if you get to that point where an advisor or a tech's got to put you in the corner, so to speak, because they got a better offer, you're too late. Anything you do at this point, they own you.
Right.
So, and that was the premise. That was really the premise of this whole change is in our business center in our region right here for Dodge Chrysler Jeep dealers. The spotlight has been put on us a little bit, and I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting by any means, but it's been put on us some, and I hear my guys getting those calls more and more, and I felt like we need to buy some insurance, so to speak. We need to. I want my guys to know when they get that call from another dealer, in the back of their mind, man, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving John. I'm not leaving this store because nobody else can give me what this place gives me, whether that be monetary or from a work environment.
I mean, that right there. I mean, that's what you shoot for.
Some of us, anyway. I think
If you want the people to stay.
100%. But again, I'm going to say it again. It comes down from top down, right? If you're going to change a pay plan, I've been there before. I've heard it before. Unionized shop, non-unionized shop, what have you. At the end of the day, we're all people and we're all coming to the same place. And I would like to think that we're all going towards, the same result, whether that's CSI or to who wants to, wake up and just, seldomly do I ever hear of anybody waking up and say, I wonder how I'm going to screw up today, or I want to make someone's life hell. Like some people do that, but I mean, there's more optimists. Yeah, there's more optimists than pessimists, but
they're out there.
They're out there. But if we're all coming to the same place, one of the things, again, I keep coming back to this just because I've crossed the coach leadership thing in my BDC world a long time ago, and leadership, true leadership, is really about your people. As Simon Sinek said it best. I'm a very big, huge Simon Sinek fan, and he is quoted as saying, leaders are not responsible for the results. Leaders are responsible for the people responsible for the results. Right? Because if I don't show up tomorrow, the show goes on. But if my people don't show up tomorrow, I'm not a technician. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
There's no show.
So then my question is, who's really in charge? Just like John just said, who's really in charge here? So I think we owe it to our people to be completely transparent, explain the pay plan, even if you have to change it. Most shops operate obviously with there's a master tech. There's someone to feed down the information. Right. So you don't have to have this conversation 15 to 20 times or how many ever techs are in there, but performance-based pay plans, not targets. Hey guys, if we get 140% productivity, everybody gets a bonus. But if you get 138% productivity, no one gets nothing.
No carrot and stick. Make it an achievable goal. And I don't want to get too far ahead here. Michael Weldon says, so important to have a solid onboarding and training process that management is involved in. No TOs. The fish stinks from the head. It's an old Italian saying. So it's very important from the top on down. Jeff Daniels says culture. Yep. And Paul Machine, here's my buddy Paul. You need to connect with Shawn. Sean, you need to connect with Paul. You're both data freaks in a good way. Yeah. The dealer works has incredibly poor onboarding, ongoing development to create a desired environment of growth. Spot on. Steve Chesson, the CRM should have next action alert sent to the circle of participants, but be careful about putting responsibilities on the shoulders. The to-dos is already above capacity because reduced BDC budgets. You can have, you have to have the actions and the next steps, but it has to also fall within reason, because otherwise what you end up with is people not utilizing it properly and going to management. Hey, I have all these overdue tasks. Can you just wipe them out for me? And that doesn't help them.
But that's such a great point everybody said, and this is where I come back to it. I love coaching. I manage I coach the people, but I manage the data. You can turn any campaign, anything, into a data-led strategic thing. Anything, right? Manage the data, coach the people. So at the end of the month or at the end of the week or whatever it is, whatever targets that we're setting for people, if they don't hit our targets, as opposed to like reprimanding them, why don't we sit down and look at the data before we even walk into that room? That's what I used to do. Okay, hold on for a second. I know that I'm just going to fire off some numbers. I know that a really, really, really highly skilled 4+ years BDC internet agent that's been doing this and wants to do this. I've always wanted to do it. can do roughly around 120 to 130 leads a month, right? But a new person coming on board is going to do maybe 80 to 100 new leads a month, plus. Okay. However, what I'd like to do, and what I did, I shouldn't give away my secrets, but I will. But one of the things that I love doing in my pay plans is not necessarily having a number, but using a percentage. I love percentages, because if Paul is new and he's doing everything that he can, but he's like my first, he's a brand new BDC guy. He just came in and then he's going to fall into the pay plan of Shawn that's been here for 4 years. So why not incentivize off a percent? Because 50% is 50%, any which way you look at it. So if I am a high producer and I get the 50%, and you're a new person and you get the 50%, we're equally structured in our pay plan. We're equally structured in this culture. And that will inadvertently produce more leaders. It's just, I don't know why it's so hard to understand, especially with me here. And I mean, this information is public. We have a 48% turnover ratio in the car industry here in Montreal, in Quebec, the problem. 48%. It's mind-boggling. It's astonishing that we still don't have onboarding. We still don't have people development, career development. And I just can't wrap my head around it. But you know what? It's going to change, because this entire thing has forced us. It's equal to playing field. It's shifted.
I've seen people come in the morning, go to lunch, and never come back.
Well, I think over the last 20 years, and you're probably 20 plus years, no, in the industry?
Over 41, but who's counting?
Oh, good Lord, you crippled me, but
and I'm still smiling.
Yeah. Well, it's because we love what we do. And it's so interesting, because when you really love what you do, you don't have to be pushed. It just comes to you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when people are like, you are not your work, you are not your job, I beg to differ. I can have the balance between my work life and my private life, but I am BDC.
It's one world.
I live and breathe this stuff. You know what? A lot of the things that I do with my 10-year-old, it's coaching. People are people. It's not that he's 10 and then my people are whatever age they are. We create those segments. Coaching people is coaching people. Empathy is empathy.
Paul Machine, lower turnover in Montreal than in the US. It's well over 100%. Wow.
Whoa.
Means everybody's going to turn. Everybody.
So there's no problem. I don't think there's a problem. Let's just keep selling cars. Come on, push.
And in the restaurant industry, before the pandemic, it was at 105%.
Wow. Okay, so you have us beat. You have us beat at the Olympics and in turnover. Yeah, right? But I think also, I mean, look, your population is 4 times ours, right? Like, but you know what? At the end of the day, people are people, and at the end of the day, those numbers are disastrous, right? So that's how we have a bad rap. That's why our CSI is down. You know what? As a matter of fact, if you really truly think about it, because I think about what I think about. This is why we've had a bad rap over the years. How many people, like, just take sales, for instance. If I sell you a car, Paul, what are the chances I'll be there in 4 or 5 years when your lease is up? It's always somebody new. You have to.
But here's the beauty of that. For the salesperson that does the work, they go in here, they stay in there. I've had people buy different cars. I've not been in a lot of dealerships, but I have customers that have bought every dealership that I've gone to. Some that didn't even know the product. I had one of my favorite stories is I had a customer that bought a used Saab 9.5 from me at Saab way back when. And years later, when that car needed replacement, they were looking for another used Saab. At that time, it was the last dealership that I was in was a Subaru dealership.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, that car's a dying breed. You're not going to find a lot of parts for the 9.5 anymore. They don't make it. They left the U.S. It's done. So, why don't you come look at a Subaru? And she said to me, what's a Subaru? What's a Subaru? They didn't even know, but guess what that family's driving today? They're driving a Forester. They had no idea on the phone what that was, but
Wow.
but they bought the service. I'm now personal friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would ever go in a store, which I'm never going to do, they would buy that, whatever that would be.
Yeah. But I think it's just equally important for, like you said, get alignment in a dealership, start looking at culture. I think before we go on, I think the single most important thing, and this is my opinion, but I think we need to change. And I think that the single most important thing moving forward is that we need to adopt and then I'm talking about from the top of the store.
Yeah.
My opinion would be that we absolutely need to adopt more of a horizontal decision-making process as opposed to a vertical decision-making process. I think that we need more leaders and less managers. Managers are great, don't get me wrong. You have the sales manager, used car manager, totally understand. But I think that in this horizontal decision-making process that I'm speaking about, there's components of people that are missing. I have met a lot of great HR directors and I've met a lot of terrible HR directors. But one thing is common. They're overworked just like the advisors. They're overworked just like the service managers. So when we're talking about the lack of onboarding, again, I'm not harping on anybody specifically, but I'm harping on whoever owns the dealer. That's who I'm harping on. And not to be cynical, but I never met an HR person that didn't want to do it. I never met an HR person or whoever's in charge of onboarding that said, oh, no, training is not important, right? So I just think that we need more leaders, not managers, but call leaders of, I don't know, call them whatever you want, but more leaders to fill in critical, like leader of career improvement or leader of this, or we need to fill in these gaps because we still have this draconian. I mean, when has the auto industry changed? We've been around for what, 100 years? Like it hasn't
much.
It hasn't changed. Cars have changed. The dealers changed. They make it look all great, but you walk in and it's the same,
same environment.
Same environment, and you walk into the receptionist and she says just one moment and there's 30 people behind you but nobody's available, or you come into the service drive and you're just there looking at them and you got the
Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
you got the Groundhog Day.
The 3 jockeys in the corner just like this waiting, and it used to drive me nuts. Do you know how many times as a service manager I was washing cars, my tie got sucked up in the vacuums, and like everybody needs to be a part of it in its culture. And I think that stems from the lack of having more of a horizontal decision-making process. That's my take.
Steve Chesson, can you talk about C4L as it relates to service to sales, sales to service, perpetual loop to infinity, never losing our customers, because why would they ever go anywhere else?
Steven is absolutely amazing. Steven is the only guy that I know on LinkedIn. I mean, this guy, when he replies, he is all in. And we're so lucky this character counts, but he is such a great guy, extremely knowledgeable. But, I mean, listen, we could talk about this till the cows come home. You know what I mean? Everybody has their opinion, but I just think that nothing will change. We can talk about all this stuff. We were speaking about this actually before we went on air. I think that there's a lot of talk going on, which is great. We're having the discussions, but I think action needs to be taken. And
nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change. You and I could meet up at this time again next week, you know? But until, like I said, the decision-making process, if you just turn that thing horizontally, just start there, right? The action of change is taking the first step. It's taking the first step, you know? We have to start just always waiting for this one apocalyptic thing to happen, and then, oh, well, we're going to have to do this. We're going to just want to change. How about let's start there? Let's start there. There's some people doing some amazing thing. Look at Brian Benstock. You know, just to say a couple of names. I'm all the way in Montreal, Canada. And I'm looking at Brian, and I'm just like, this guy is a machine. He's amazing. He's front.
He's a visionary.
He's a visionary. You got people, and they may harp on him, but I'm not. You got people like El Patron, like Rudy. Rudy is doing his own thing, but he's very present, and he's there, and he cares. He's talking about BDC. He just put out a video I think on Friday about the new BDC that he's just constantly pushing the envelope. So if we start knocking on people for trying,
well, here's the interesting thing.
What are we doing here?
To Steve's point about a customer for life, I don't know necessarily that the dealerships see it that way throughout the team. I really don't. I think the dealer may see it that way as an ideal. And I think there's a percentage of the salespeople that see it that way, because I have customers for life also. I would tell people, look, here's my number. It's always going to be my number until I die. If there's any help you need with anything, whether or not it has anything to do with what you have now or something in the future, I want you to know you can call on me. Okay, and here's an interesting story. So I get a call from this woman years later. Her daughter had bought she came from California to buy an RX 350 from me. It might have been a 330 at that point, years ago.
You're dating yourself.
I'm old. I'm going to hit 60 in less than 2 weeks. So.
Oh my God, it doesn't look like it.
But back to the story. So the girl's mom, whom I also became friends with. I became friends with most of my customers. She reached out to me because the little leather packet that the key fits into, the dog chewed it up. And Lexus didn't make that one anymore.
And you can't put that under warranty, by the way.
No, it's way out of warranty.
That's not a warranty item.
But guess what I did? I found the exact ones that came as a set of 2 on eBay. Years later, I'm not even in a store. I bought them. I shipped them to her house. I gave it to her free. There's nothing in it for me. But I told her and her daughter years before that, if you never need me for something, call me and I'll help you. What did it cost me? It didn't cost me that much money at the end of the day. I spend more on a lunch than I probably spent on the keys and the little leather pouches,
for sure. Yeah.
And the shipping. But guess what? If that lady, if I do something that's relevant to what she might purchase in the future, you think she has any hesitation in doing business with me again, ever? Because I didn't have to do that, and most people wouldn't have done that. So Steve thinks about customers for life.
Yeah, and you know what? And I know Steve very well. Well, I know him. We've been following each other for about 2 years now, and his content is amazing. His views on things are amazing. He is an albatross. He's very different. That's why I love him, because he's always pushing the boundaries. Wendy, equally as good. Wendy Reeves, big shout out to Wendy Reeves, equally as good. You have people like Sean Welsh just constantly being different, pushing and pushing and pushing, wanting to be outside the norm. So, but I think, it's a double-edged sword. When we're talking about customers for life, I think competition has changed that. The war between the manufacturers and the price points and what have you has destroyed it. Like customer for life. Well, you can almost go anywhere right now and get prepaid maintenance.
Right.
Right. So I think it's more about, they call it the guest experience at Lexus, or, customer experience, or call it what you will. But
it's the relationship between the customer
relationship
and the rep is what makes that a customer for life. I want to get to some of the comments because I don't want to.
Let's go.
Mark Williamson, turnover rate is a reflection of management, not employees. 100% spot on. As I said earlier, the fish stinks from the head. While Machine said the ultimate trainer in a dealership is the manager/leaders who tell their people what to do daily. The ones on the front line. I've been in stores where the owner is in the service drive with his eye on the ball at 6:30 in the morning, doing training. When they're doing training, and the owner's there in the drive. Michael Weldon says, you are spot on, Paul. Hey, that bears repeating. Michael Weldon says, you are spot on, Paul. I do that to my wife all the time also. And Wendy Reeves says, and thought-provoking Steve Cheston. You know what I love about this guy? He was so far ahead of the time.
Yeah.
In the early part of the time, I watched some of this guy's old school videos, all right? Now everybody saw a video. You got to do video, And still, if you do 2 to 3 pieces of content or in video on LinkedIn a week, you are within the top 2% of people that create content. No joke. This guy, Steve, he had video from way back when, before there was such a thing as doing your own editing.
The Midas days.
Videos.
The Midas days.
Oh, even before then, man. So I have much respect for Steve.
100%. Steve is rock solid. Very rock solid guy. I like Steve a lot.
Jeff Daniel, average customer retention in the mid-60s. Average age of vehicles on the road is almost 12 years old. It actually just surpassed 12 years old. And 5% retention to your dealership. UIO count and watch the numbers go through the roof. Train your customers just like your employees to retain them. Here's the funny thing about numbers, okay? You could walk into 100 stores and every one of them will be number one in retention in their district.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, every one of them will be number one in every category in their district. I wonder what happened in number 2, 3, 4, 5, and the other 95. But everybody's number one. In sales, we would ask people before deploying, we'd ask them because we knew we would go in and verify. We'd ask them, retention, and everybody's like this. When you plug the data into the DMS, you know what we got out of that? 22% on average. I think it was about a 1,500 store test that was done. 22%. Yeah. That means that 78% are going somewhere else, right? It's crazy. And Steve says, how do you feel about lifetime warranty and prepaid maintenance? I want to jump right on that because first of all, lifetime warranty, how can you beat life? You're going to be dead before that thing runs out, assuming that you dot the I's and cross the T's. If we bought some cars specifically because of the lifetime warranty. If you do the servicing when it's due, and you should do that anyway, go back 5 years later to have that 5-year inspection done. That's in the very small print. If you don't get that 5-year inspection done, you avoided your lifetime warranty, okay? So why would you not buy a car if dealer A offered lifetime warranty and dealers B through Z didn't? This guy's got a better shot, and I will pay more for that because if I had to replace an engine, that's a lot of money. And as far as the prepaid maintenance, 7 in 10 customers don't come back to the dealer now.
That's right.
Okay. Only 18% go back to their selling dealer, and that includes all of the OEMs that give the service included. So anything you can do to hedge your bet when you have that cohesion between sales and service, where the two are a team, they know the service team, they know the sales team, and they know that they work together.
You could feel it.
Yeah, those people are going to come back.
Yeah,
And
because
if customer service is with you for the lifetime, they're 5 times more likely to buy the next car. Sorry.
Well, no, but 100%, because you know what? And I used to train this. Oh man, we're going back. This got to be 15 years ago when I was originally training my BDC agents for service. And you know, a lot. we're in a tough spot. You know, when someone calls in and right away the customer's like, "It's under warranty. It's under warranty," and it's really hard to explain it over the phone. So I just came up with a line, and I said, "Listen, this is how you explain warranty." And it's such an interesting point. Lifetime warranty. Why not? Stand behind your product. Stand behind your product. And what does a warranty truly, the true definition, what does a warranty really cover? A warranty covers a manufacturer defect. If it's not something that I did to the vehicle,
right,
well, then change it.
Right.
Change it. What do you mean after 5 years, it's no longer good? What do you mean? So, like...
No, if you don't go for the inspection, that's
okay. Yeah.
Because they count on people being late with their servicing, where they can say, "Oh, sorry, you missed that service, so we're not going to cover you."
Well,
so
then again,
fine print, but you have to follow.
But you know what? And you would totally, and I don't know if you want to jump in on this, but I think Christine Mitchell, actually, she's an advocate for what I call them info nights. She probably calls it something else, but every single vehicle that is sold, every single one, within the next month to month and a half, all of those people should be re-invited back to the dealership and given a proper tour of the service department. This is where the parts department is. This is why OEM parts are more there's a reason that they're more expensive than your jobber part. I'm not saying don't get jobber, but obviously within the warranty specs. But this is the night drop box. We were just talking about this before. I mean, how many times in service did we get there at 6 a.m. before we open up, and there's 2 cars just parked there and we can't find the keys, and then everybody else starts to like so many times as a
it's on the floor because they shoved it through the exhaust hole in the floor.
Or we end up calling the person and they actually answer the phone at 7:15 and they're like, "Well, I have the keys here with me." And we're like, "Oh my God, you need to get that car out." So I think it's an education. It's an education, and I think we can do a lot better with regards to educating our customers. A lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just an education thing. You know, customers for life, well, educate them why they should come back.
Right. Give them a reason.
Great service is not enough. I need them to understand. They need to feel like they're part of the culture. You're not just buying a product, you're buying a service. Well, show me what this service is. Show it to me. And it's not the free bottles of water, and it's not the expired coffee at the machine and the free newspapers. Show me a value added. What am I getting? Can I at least get a smile from people? You know,
the smile is free.
The 10-foot rule. I think it's Toyota that has it. If you're 10 feet within any person, you have to address the customer. Why isn't that just an everybody rule?
Right.
So it's all of these. It's all of these little things, to me, like Steven said, that would make the C4L.
Michael Larkin says, "Finally, I'll have to catch the replay. Technical difficulties beyond my control." Mike, pay the bill.
It's under warranty. It's under warranty.
A short message from one of our sponsors. Hold on one second. Hey, Ken, let's talk retail warranty reimbursement.
One of the things I want to talk about this week is labor rate agreements with the manufacturers. There are some manufacturers that will tie you into a rock solid labor rate agreement. You don't ever want to sign one of those because you're giving control to the manufacturer, which disqualifies you from taking advantage of the statute in your state that allows you to collect retail pricing for your labor, not what the manufacturer charges you. So stay out of those agreements. We advise all of our clients never to sign a labor rate agreement.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, Ken throws out some incredible tips. We've been doing a tip series, and everybody today, they're trying to maximize every dollar that comes out of through their shop.
Yeah, the effective
And he's got some
labor rate.
amazing tips.
Yeah, the effective labor rate, super
Yeah.
important. Yeah, and it, I mean, come on, look at, like, I'm a BDC guy. Like, how do I even now? Listen, there's a ton of people that are better than me, 100%, right? But I'm not concerned
No
with
way.
them. I'm concerned with me, right?
You got to work harder, bro.
17-hour days is not enough. But how it's just like we were saying before, it's just important for that cohesion to, walk a mile in my shoe. Like how does a BDC guy know about effective labor rate? You have to take an interest in this, and you have to galvanize yourself, and the only way to do that is to reach out, internal communication, and care about the person beside you. No one gets left behind. No one gets left behind. No one gets left behind. If you have that attitude, we're good to go.
Michael Larkin says, checks in the mail. That's the problem. Jeff Daniel, Illinois is passing a bill forcing retail hours to be paid for warranty. I think every state now has something like that, or almost every state. So yeah, it's a constant tug of war, right? The manufacturers put these parts replenishment programs on the dealers. They have the guaranteed parts and the not guaranteed parts. It seems it's a constant tug of war. I feel, and I'm unscientifically, that they're creating roadblocks to prevent dealers from cashing in on some of these things, to take back the monies that they're now legitimately able to capture with this retail warranty stuff. So it's an interesting business. The business, the cars changed, the environments a lot of times don't change, but the gamesmanship, if you will, between the dealer body and the OEMs is something that's constantly shifting. Have you ever seen a picture years ago where somebody goes into a deli and the butcher who has the meat on the scale, the butcher is pushing down on the scale while the customer that's there to buy it is pushing up on the scale?
I think I saw something like that, yeah.
It seems like that's the constant struggle between dealer and OEM. And
well, it's friction. It's friction, right? It's friction. It's just friction.
Jeff Daniel said now is playing Mitchell time, not warranty time. Is paying Mitchell time, not warranty time.
Yeah.
It's a constant struggle.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder. Right now we're in a bubble.
Yeah.
And that bubble's going to burst. I'm guessing Q2 of next year. But an interesting thing just happened in the US, and not to get political, because we don't get political on this show, but the moratorium has ended for people that are back on rent, or that
yeah.
So,
well, not just that, but it's I remain optimistic for the future. I'm very excited in the direction that we're going. I mean, all this talk about no more gas cars and everything's electric. I don't think it's going to go as smooth as they think, or it's a bit ambitious to think by 2030 there's going to be no more gas cars. But I'm kind of excited for where it's going. I think
they're pumping billions into this to try to make that a possibility. So, part of me says yes, part of me says no.
Yeah, but what we're going to see, but one thing that won't change is us, human beings, and our need to service each other, and our need to be transparent with each other, and to stop allowing, that friction that we're talking about, that pressure from the manufacturer. And they have reasons for it as well, right? So,
sure.
but as a people, correct, and as a people, as a culture, let's stop worrying about what we cannot control, and let's start worrying about what we can control. And that's the people that are going to come into our stores tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Start off with a smile. Don't bullshit people. Run through your recommended service. If they don't know what a pollen filter is, explain it to them. Stop saying, hey, do you want me to change your pollen filter for $54.95?
Show them the clean one, show them the dirty one.
Show them, and then show them what it
ramifications of.
does. Show them what it does. Why is there a pollen filter in a car? They were never even explained what a pollen filter is. They don't even know what's in there.
And if you have to, explain to them about allergens and allergies and how some people have them
100%.
before, some people
Yes.
get them later in life.
Yes. And what people don't understand also is be able, and this goes to BDC. I think it was Jeff that said it, or was it Paul? But I would have scrums every morning. You have to do it every morning. What are we going to look at today? Okay, guys, I'm going to quickly explain to you what a brake service is. Clean, lube, and adjust. This is how it works. I would literally take my BDC personnel one by one downstairs to the shop to illustrate so that they could see what it is. Because
they can relay the information.
They can relay the information that brake dust gets in the calipers, and what happens is after 20,000 kilometers, if you don't do it, it could seize, and if it's seized, then there's uneven wear, and then you're going to come here and you're going to say it's under warranty, but then we're going to say, no, it's not under warranty,
right,
because you should have done this, and then they say, well, no one explained it to me. There's your customer for life. Customer gone.
Bam.
So it's
Steve
about...
Chesson.
Yeah, Steve.
I have a secret trick I don't mind pointing out regarding a better way to utilize a tremendous opportunity. Service loaners.
Oh boy. Yeah. Talk to your controller about that one. Depreciation. Trust me. When I was service manager at Lexus, man, I never got a call from somebody so much in my life. Stock number, blah, blah, blah. What are we doing? Where is it? It needs to get off the road.
How many miles are on it?
Yeah. How many miles are on it? I'm like,
why are there so many miles on it?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you want me to tell you? I'm calling everybody, the customer, the warranty.
It's out. What do you mean it's out? It was supposed to be taken off the road a month ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you don't know where it is?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just about, just focus on what you got. Focus on, you don't have to have the title of a leader to be one. That's the cool thing about it. A jockey tomorrow morning could be the guy directing things, as long as you're doing it from the heart, and as long as you're doing it with love and there's empathy, it's just got to be influential, and that's what I promote. And this is not me, but I aspire to inspire till I expire. And I'm on this mission right now to help dealer groups through my consulting, whether it's BDC service, whether it's BDC internet, CSI, establishing customer service processes, or what have you. It's not just one thing. That's what people need to understand. It's a complete alignment. It's like they say, and a team is as strong as its weakest link.
As its weakest link, yeah.
I relate everything back to sports. I was, a big sports person growing up, and everything. That's why I show up. It's so funny. Like, I miss going to work. I miss waking up and getting ready. It was like when I used to play hockey. You're in the dressing room, you're getting ready, and you're all focused. Well, I was pretty intense when I would get ready in the morning. I'm just looking in the mirror, but I'm psyching myself up to show up. Like, I'm going to give my customers everything I absolutely have. I'm creating emotional deposits with my people, and I'm elevating the customer service standards.
Now, speaking of showing up, you do this professionally. You do this for stores. After the show, and we've already run way over.
Yeah.
I want you have to go back into the post on LinkedIn, put your contact info in there.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
Best ways to reach you. Because I'm sure, if, like everybody else, you remember what you forgot to ask after you had the opportunity to do so. So by putting your info in the thread, then people can reach out to you and have conversations. We're all about connecting vendors and dealers. So, if you get some business out of this, that would be great.
And you know what? And for what it's worth, there's a ton of new vendors out there. Let's just talk about that real quick. I know we're over time, but I'm so excited. I don't necessarily think I want to name drop. I don't know if it's sponsorship or what have you, but I'm super excited. There's an explosion of AI coming out with regards to the BDC service. Steve Chesson talks about this tremendously. He's been talking about this for years. There's a lot of companies now that are racing to be first. with AI, Brooke or whatever from PDS. There's a ton of new chat systems. It's about, you know what I like? It's the little guy's turn.
Right.
It's
right.
We're there now. It's the little guy's turn. And that's what I'm happy. There's an explosion of beautiful new tech coming out. And I, for one, I'm absolutely excited. And I keep learning every day. I'm humbled every day. And I stay humbled. You know, I never think that I know everything, but I'm in the pursuit of it. So it keeps me
I
keeps
love
me on my toes.
technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology, people, process. Put that together.
So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Shawn, I want to thank you. It's been an awesome show. I appreciate the time you spent with us on Sunday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
A couple of comments came in under the wire. Wendy Reeves, BDC culture in the dealership from the top down.
Yep.
Love the complete alignment, Shawn Armorer. And Steve Chesson says AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
I'm looking for Sarah.
Yeah, exactly.
So just want to remind everybody, August 26th, it's a Thursday. We're having a vendor showcase. So make sure you check out the website, dealervendormatch.com. If you're a vendor for sponsorship opportunities, click on the events tab. And if you're a dealer, click on the events tab. It's going to be a complimentary event for dealers. We know you're busy, so here's a short message, and then we'll tune out. Thank you for tuning in. Have a successful week. I'm very excited to announce our dealervendormatch.com vendor showcase happening on Thursday, August 26th. So here it is in a nutshell. Dealers, we know how much you hate the dreaded cold calls, but we also know that you need some of the technologies that are available today to become more efficient and profitable. Vendors, we know how difficult it is to get in front of the key personnel at dealerships. We get it, because we've been there. So here's a one-day event that's complimentary to dealers to bridge the gap between the dealers and the vendors. We're going to be marketing this nationally to key dealership personnel. Email, social media campaigns, you name it, we're getting the message out there. So sponsorship opportunities are available. We're already recording some of the sessions now, so don't miss out. More information will be announced as we get closer to the event. Hope to see you there. That's dealervendormatch.com's vendor showcase happening Thursday, August 26th.